about how you set up your manufacturing and product development infrastructure. Are your cosmetics produced locally or offshore? Or
they are all local, but it's like, again, I think like the whole theme you'll hear me coming back to again and again is like you don't start off with the perfect solution on day one, right? So we actually are on our 8th formulation of nail polish, and the last 4 have been with the same manufacturer, but before that it's like you talk to the person who will talk to you, right? And sometimes you can't get the very best people to work with you, so you work with who you can. And that's the reality of it, and every company is built that way. So if you're like, oh, like these are not the people, like these, you know, strange people in New Jersey who like whatever, you know, like you know, if they're willing to work with you and they're the only people who will work with you, then they're the right people to work
right
with.
Now, right?
They're the right people for right now, and you start going, and then you can, you know, trade up in manufacturers. So that's kind of what we've done, and you fake a lot of it. Like early on, we were mixing and pouring by hand. Like I was shaking polish bottles like before sending them out myself. Like, you know, you do what you can, and that's not acceptable today at the size and scale we are, like, you know, but when you're just getting going, like I think the good thing about this country is that I think people do want to see entrepreneurs succeed, and they are curious about new ideas, and a lot of people are super critical, but there are a lot of people, especially when you're at the beginning, who will be very forgiving, a lot more forgiving than you might be as a consumer of your own product. And so, like, this is not to say put crap out there, put the very best you can at every step out there, but I think that, you know, that being able to sort of, you know, do the best you can with what you can, and know that you can, you know, you can always get to the next level when you earn your way there.
You mentioned having some investors. Can you talk to us a little bit about the growth of your company? Where were you? What stage were you at when you went for your first sort of round of funding? How was that process like?
And you know what? Nobody knows how to do any of this stuff, right? Oh no, we're okay. My watch is 7:05, right? Thank you. Hey, you don't know how to do that. I didn't know how to, like, I bought business plan writing for dummies, and you know, and you like write the plan and you get input into it, and I have like about, I don't know, maybe at this point, I bet I've written about like 300 documents that say julep overview. Like julep overview, you know, August 2006, julep overview, September 2006, like, you know, there's like a document on my computer. The last one I did was January, like, of this year. But you are constantly explaining what you're doing, and that changes, and so you don't have to have that perfect business plan either. But it's hard. Like the hardest thing, I think, one of the hardest things is finding money. I didn't know how to do it. It's not like I had investors in my pocket. Like they're, you know, my parents had a 7-Eleven, and like nobody they knew were going to be an investor. On the flip side, I did have people who I worked with, so that was helpful. Like I didn't have a personal network, but I had employers who surprisingly, and I wasn't even thinking I was asking for money. Like I didn't even know how to do it. Do you guys know what words you would ask, like your friends, family, mentors to invest in your company? You can't be like, hey, do you want to invest? That sounds like weird and impersonal. I don't know. I thought. I didn't know the words to ask even for an investment. So I'd be like, I have this idea and it's going to be this and blah, 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 blah. And finally, this mentor that I had worked with said, is this like NPR, Jane? If I write you a check, will you hang up? Stop calling me. I was like, in fact, yes. And that's how I got my first check. Like, I did not know how to like close the deal. I was just like going to talk about it until like I was blue in the face and keep calling back. And now I'm thinking this, and so it was hard. I ultimately landed. For me, the right words were, "Do you want to participate?" Because that felt like sharing. I want you to join in the journey. So those were the words I used. Like, there's so many things like that, right? Like, you don't think that that's going to be a stumbling block, but like for days and days I would practice and I'd be like, I don't know how to ask for money. Give me money? Like, write a check? Like, what are you going to say?
So you're being very humble. How much did you raise in your, like, you over the course of your company life cycle? Like, how much have you raised? Just to give these guys sort of a level set.
Yeah, it's crazy. $50 million. Initially, like in 15, like 5K increments, like ridiculously small investors. Not that $5,000 is like, that's a big sum of money to me, to everybody in my family. So I'm not like, but for the size of company we are now, like it's super small. And every stage is like, you are raising money from angels and you don't know what that is. So you Google like angel investors and you read about that online, and then you find like the Alliance of Angels in Seattle and you go pitch them and you pitch them again, and they say no to you the first time, and like you go back with a different concept. And anyway, it's like it is at every stage you're trying to figure it out. And then even when we got venture capital financing, the next round, I was like, oh my God, there's a next round, and now they're different people. Like, like nothing you did the last time is helpful this time, because they want to see different things. You're a different stage of company, so now they want like XYZ, like they want to know if you have a CFO and are you auditable, and all these words that like I didn't know 2 years ago. So every phase is new, and like if you're not a serial entrepreneur, then you don't know how to do it, and that's like 99% of us. So you're just figuring it out and doing the best you can. Every stage has been like that, and there've been lots of like, like over drinks, I can tell you about like the times when lots of financings were about to fall apart. Every financing has been like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, then I'll have nothing, and what do I do? And lots of crazy things happen at the last minute, and then it snowballs. I don't know. I think there are some people out there for whom it's been super easy. I haven't been one of them. Like every dollar has felt like scratched and like scraped, and like especially when you're building a beauty company and a lot of the investors are men and they don't use your products, and so there was that element too. I think
that was interesting though. Like you got venture funding for a cosmetics company. Like, can you talk a little bit how you positioned, or what is it about how you leverage technology that made sort of venture capitalists interested in your business?
It was about sort of communicating directly with customers, involving them in the product development process, and like transforming the category.
Right.
And it's when you're trying to find an investor, you're only half the equation. That's the other good thing to remember. Lots of people turned us down, and it's because they had a different investment thesis. So when we finally did land our investors, I think they had an idea about the companies that they wanted to invest in that we happened to fit into. And like, it's not like I had a Rolodex or there's anywhere online where you can search for the kinds of investments these companies want to do. You can be a little bit smart, like you can ask them what other investments they've done. You can research a little bit of that. If they're individuals, you can ask that. Like what kinds of companies do you want to invest in? So it's it's not like you're totally flying blind, but you are for the most part. And a lot of the time it's not about you. It's like they just closed a deal, so they're not going to do another one. Somebody's super interested in what you're doing, and then they get divorced or their stepmother dies, and I'm like, well, she's not your real mother. These are things that have really happened, right? Where I'm about to get a term sheet, and then it's like, oh, I have to go to Florida because my stepmother passed away, and then like there's something weird about timing. It's like, well, we haven't changed. We're still a good investment opportunity, but like they've lost their focus. There's like a window of time when everything is progressing, and then if it doesn't like work itself out, then sometimes it just loses momentum and it makes no sense. So like, oh my God, it's hard enough for you to tell your story in a way that's compelling, to found the person who finds your thesis like separate from you, right? It's like if you have an e-commerce thesis and you will believe in high margin companies, and sort of like we happen to check the boxes of what the investors want to invest in, and then you find these people and then they're interested, and then other things happen. Like I think that's the important thing to remember, is that there too, like meeting a lot of people is really important, because you don't know what their investment thesis is, and you're only half the equation. You don't control what they're looking for. And if they're not looking for you, they're not looking for you. Like he's just not that into you.